Hello, my name is Vanessa. I used to be terrified at the idea of traveling by myself, especially being young and being a girl, and now I literally can't imagine doing it any other way. It is my absolute favorite way to travel. So I wanted to make this video for all of the people out there who might be nervous like me, might be thinking about going on their first solo trip, just to give some peace of mind and some helpful tips that I learned along the way. So yeah, let's get into it. My first tip is to stay in hostels. You'll probably hear this a lot, like if you watch any travel channels. Like I was binging this type of content before I left because I just wanted to know what to expect. I wanted to absorb as much information as I physically could so that I could be as safe as possible. And the thing about hostels is you meet so many people, and it makes it so you are solo traveling, you're by yourself, like you're going to the places that you want to go to on the schedule you want to do them on, but you get to meet such cool people along the way. I met so many people that completely changed my perspective on the world. I am still friends with so many of them today, and talking to people from South Korea and talking to people from Russia and talking to people from Japan, it's just so eye-opening. But on top of that, safety-wise, it is so much easier to feel safe when you're exploring a new city with a group. Maybe it's an event that's set up by the hostel where you're doing a biking tour. Maybe you and a couple of the friends that you meet there want to go and have dinner at this place after dark, and you're in a group so you feel safer. Another thing is that if you want and you're a girl, you can stay in a girls only dorm, right? If you're nervous and you're like, I don't want to stay with any men in the room, that's really scary, there are girls only dorms in almost every single one that I went to, and usually they're cheaper. So just putting that out there. Staying at hostels for that first trip was the best decision I could have ever made. I made so many friends. I did so many things that I would be too scared to do if I had to initiate doing them myself. I remember there was this one guy that I met in France, I believe, and we became friends the night before, and I was so bad. I just stayed in my bed the whole next day because I was exhausted, and he literally comes in at like 4 p.m. after he's done all these tours and whatever, and he knocks on the bed frame and he's like, get up and at him, kid, we're gonna go do something. Like dragged me out of there, and I was like, I don't want to, and he was like, that sucks, you're in this city for only 2 days, we're gonna go do something. And I was like, fair enough. And it was so fun. We walked around, we got ice cream, we sat along the canal that was there, and it was such a good memory. So you meet so many cool people while traveling, and I was so scared that staying in mixed dorms, men honestly kind of scare me. But literally the people that you meet traveling, oh my gosh, nicest group of people. Literally, especially in Europe. I have found Europe was my favorite place hostel-wise because everybody is young, they're excited, they are taking care of each other. So yeah, that is tip number 1. Number 2 is gonna seem kind of obvious, but it's don't arrive at your new destinations at night. Reason for this is because it is so much easier to be lost and trying to find where you're going and all of that and figure out everything when it's daylight outside. At night, you don't know the city, you don't know the sketchy areas, you don't know anything about it, basically. And if you get lost, if you need to ask for directions, you're kind of out of luck. So that is just a small little tip, but something that I found so incredibly helpful. And you do have to wake up a little bit earlier, but I would trade waking up earlier for feeling infinitely safer any day of the week. So that's a short one, but that is my second tip. My third one is be prepared in advance for people's commentary on the fact that you're going to be solo traveling, especially if you are a girl. I thought that the hard part was over once I booked the tickets, at least until I got there, right? It took a lot of faith, a lot of confidence to book those to start with, and I was so scared, and I just decided to go for it, and I thought that that was the hard part. The harder part for me was everybody has something to say about it, especially if you are a girl. I cannot tell you how many times I heard, that's so scary, I can't believe you're doing that. Are you going to be safe? How are you going to be safe? The thing that I heard that drove me a little bit crazier than that was when I was 18, I went into a bank with my mom to put a travel alert on my card that I was going to be at these places. We were just chatting to the bank teller about the trip. She turns to my mom and she goes, I can't believe you're letting her do that. Letting me? I funded the trip. It was money I saved since I was 16. I am also 18. Where is this letting me come from? And then more recently, I was going to Thailand for a month by myself, and I was talking to one of my coworkers about it, and he was like, I can't believe your boyfriend is letting you do that. And I was like, what? And this broke my heart. This was the reason I wanted to make this video, because the amount of women, like my friends or my grandparents or whoever it was that I told about this, they said, that is so cool. That is going to be so fun. I wish I had the confidence to do that, but I don't. I wish I could do that, but I'd be too scared. I'd need to bring my mom. I'd need to bring my sister. I'd need to bring my boyfriend. It definitely shook my confidence a little bit in myself, hearing constantly, that's so terrifying. How are you going to do that? I can't believe you're doing that. Why are these people in your life allowing you to do that? So I think that it would have been helpful if I knew that in advance, that people are going to have a lot to say about it, regardless of if you ask them about their opinion or not, and just to not let that shake your confidence in yourself. You're incredibly smart and capable, and just because people wouldn't do it themselves or have no idea what it's actually like or would be too scared, that doesn't have to change anything about how you're viewing the situation, and it doesn't have to change anything about you. It doesn't make their fears true, it just makes them scared. So that is number 3, I think. Number 4 is there are so many more people looking out for you than you even realize. I always tell people that solo traveling has restored my faith in humanity. So for example, when I was going to Europe for the first time, I was boarding the plane and I was so nervous, but there was this girl next to me and I started talking to her and I was like, oh my gosh, have you been here before? Like, is it scary? And we just had a short conversation about it. She had been there several times, right? And literally we land and she beelines for me, helps me get through customs, helps me get on my first train. And then we met up for lunch later and she gave me more tips, right? And then I went with this big group from all these different hostels. We went to dinner and then we went to a karaoke bar and then we went to the Trevi Fountain, and we were at the Trevi Fountain at 3 a.m. And it was amazing because literally we could get all the way to the front without having to wait like half an hour because there was literally nobody else there. So it was so much fun. But when the time came for all of us to disperse and go back to our separate hostels, I was the only one at my specific hostel and it was an hour walk away. And keep in mind, the subway was closed down. It closed at like 2, I think. And there were very few taxis, but even then I was like, I'm not taking a taxi by myself at 3 a.m. And this girl found out that I had met literally that same night. She found out that I was going to be walking back by myself and she was like, no, we're going with you. She grabs a guy from her hostel and the two of them walk me an hour back to my hostel. And then they had to walk another half hour to get to their hostel after they dropped me off. And those were people I met that same day. I met this girl in Naples. I needed a place to stay when I was in London. And literally, she had known me for that one day and she let me stay in her apartment, in her bedroom. She slept on the couch. People you meet while traveling are amazing, and there are so many more people looking out for you than you even realize. I thought before I went on that trip, I was like, I'm completely by myself. I'm the only one who cares about my safety. But the amount of people who went so far out of their way to help me was insane. It was too many to count. So I just want you to know that yes, you might be traveling by yourself, but that doesn't mean you're alone. And especially if you are taking the opportunity to make friends by staying in hostels, by talking to people on like tours that you go on, by any number of things that you can meet people at, you are not alone at all. At all. That's something that I really wish I knew before I went on my trip. And the final tip or thing that I want to say is make sure that you look confident. You do not have to feel confident. Literally what I did is I imagined what does a confident person look like and I played them like a character, right? It didn't feel like me, but I was like, this is what they would do. This is how they would act. This is how they would walk. I played the character whenever I needed to. Reason this is so important. Yes, most of traveling is, this is so much fun. This is amazing. This is the greatest experience of my life. But there's also parts where you want to make sure that you are keeping yourself safe. And something that I did to do that for myself is I made sure I always kept my head up, acted like I knew where I was going, even if I did not. I made eye contact with people. I did not act scared. So what I would do is if I was going somewhere new, I would look up at my hostel or my Airbnb or at the train station if I was just coming in, the route that I was supposed to take to get there. I would try to memorize as much of it as I could and then I would walk out. Reason for that is If somebody is trying to target you, worst case scenario, right? And they see somebody who is looking down at their phone, who is really anxious, looking around, very obviously does not have confidence in themselves, versus somebody who walks out of the train station or out of the Airbnb or the hostel, head up, makes eye contact, acts confident, walks, knows exactly where they're going, or looks like they know exactly where they're going. Who do you think is more likely to be targeted in that situation? And it is not a fun reality. And honestly, I have never in the whole time that I was traveling where I felt like I was being targeted or followed or anything like that, right? Just out of an abundance of caution. And what I did is if I needed to look at the navigation again, I would just step off to the side. I would look at it on my phone again, memorize a little bit further into the map and put it back away, walking confidently again. I think that that is something that is underrated. Just the confidence that you exude and telling people, you can't mess with me. I see you. I'm not scared of you. Even if you are, that's okay. That's why I said you can play the character of somebody who's confident. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. And just remember, you are so much more capable than you think you are. You are so much more resourceful, and you build the confidence as you go to figure things out, right? If you never flex that muscle, you're never gonna know how strong it actually is. That is my video. And if you like this type of content, I have a couple other videos that are discussing travel stories that I think that you'll really like, and just the lessons that I learned from those. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I will see you next time. Bye!